अस्सलाम ओके जी। सो आज का जो हमारा टॉपिक है ज्योग्राफी का, दैट इज रिलेटेड टू पॉपुलेशन। ठीक है। और व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट population, so in the last class, if you remember, we were talking about the birth rate, the death rate, the causes of high birth rate, causes of high death rate, माइग्रेशन पे थोड़ी सी हमारी कुछ बात हुई थी। आज जिस टॉपिक पर हमने बात करनी है, दैट इज रिलेटेड टू द पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड। पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड क्या होता है? दिस इज हाउ अ पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड लुक्स लाइक। पॉपुलेशन पिरामिड इज यूज्ड टू आइडेंटिफाई people living in an area belonging to various age groups। या फिर हम इसके लिए टर्म यूज करते हैं कि population pyramid is used to identify or to observe the population structure of an area, that how many young people, how many old people, how many uh, middle-aged people are living in an area in a country during a particular year is called as the population pyramid. So this kind of a bar chart you can see is used for this kind of representation, which is called as a population pyramid. On the population pyramid, on the left hand side is the population of males, and on the right hand side is the population of females. Below the scale is showing the percentages, and this is the age groups. For example, if you see, this is the age group 0 till 4, which means the newborn or the infant children. So this bar is representing the infants males, and this bar is representing the female infants. So if we see, so this bar is at this point, which is about 10%, between 8 and 12, it is, let's say if it is 10%. So it means 10% females are there, infants, and same goes for the males, it is about 10%. So we can say that 10% males are there, infant males are there. So 10 and 10, 20% population is of the infants. Let's refer to the population of the children aged 10 till 14 years. So that is again for about 9% males, and about same goes for the females as well. 9% are the females. So 9 and 9, 18% is the total population of the children aged between 10 till 14 years. In which year? In the year 2000 in Pakistan. This is how the population pyramid is used. So this population pyramid, if we see the shape, it is representing that the children of less ages are more in number, and the people of higher ages, that is the aged population above 60 and others, are less in number. So it is indicating a high death rate, since the people of aged population are less in number, and is indicating a high birth rate, since the infants, the newborns, are high in number. So this is how the population pyramid is used to find out the number of people or the population structure of an area. Basically, the population of a country is divided into three categories, or what we call as three types, you can say. The first category is from the age 0 till 14, or at times some people call it as from 0 till 15, is the age group of young dependents. Young dependents are the children who cannot earn for themselves. Young dependent are the children who cannot do anything for themselves, and they are dependent on their parents, or they are a burden on the country, that they need to utilize the resources for the or of the country, and they're not going to generate any economic benefit for the country. They are called as the young dependents. The people above the age of 60 years are called as the old dependents. Again, these are the people who cannot work for the country. These are the people who cannot generate any kind of economic benefit for the country, and they are the people who are again dependent upon the government. They are going to use the resources of the country but are not going to generate any kind of wealth. And the third kind of population is the people aging from about 16 or 17 years till 60 years of age, are the independent population. They are the people who are going to earn for the country. They are the people who are the earners of the country, who are the independent population, who are going to generate resources for the young dependents as well as the old dependents. So this is how the population is divided into three categories, and usually for every country's population, we determine the dependency ratio. The dependency ratio means that how much of a population in a country is comprising of how much percent of dependents are there in that total population. What if we want to check, okay, let's say in a particular population, let's say of Pakistan, the total population is about 40 million. And out of that 40 million population, 20 million are the dependents, including the young and the old dependents both. So it means that 50% of the population is dependent population and the remaining 50% is independent, which means that dependency ratio is going to be 50%, which is a high dependency ratio. Dependency ratio, if it is going to be 50% or more than 50%, it is called as a high dependency ratio. It should be below 50% at all cost. So moving on further, this is also another population pyramid. If you see, it is a big broader picture. Again, on the left hand, it is the males. On the right hand, it is the females. Again, it is also indicating a high birth rate. It's indicating a high death rate since the aged population is quite less. And if you see the younger population, it is constantly decreasing as the people are increasing. As we move up the ladder, as the age bar is increasing, the number of people are decreasing. Why is it so that the number of people is decreasing? That maybe the people are migrating from the country due to less opportunities. As the people, they grow older, they migrate from that area in search of better educational or job opportunities or whatever it is. Or there can be a disease due to which there can be a high death rate, that the people, as they grow in age, they die. This can be an issue as well. So this is how we use to find out about the population structure of an area. Let's have a look over these population pyramids. Let's look over this population pyramid. If you see, in this population pyramid, if you see, the birth rate is found to be low. The bars representing the young infants are quite low. The death rate is also found to be low. As you see, the bars representing the older people are much higher this time. It means the death rate is relatively low. And the younger people or the independent population is found to be high in the country. This population pyramid, this kind of population structure is the ideal state, wherein there is a low birth rate, there is a low death rate, and there is a high propensity of the independent population, which means more workers are going to be there for the country, more people are going to be there who are going to generate resources for the country. So yes, this is a benefit for the country. This is something good. Moving on further, the next thing that we have is, if you refer to this population pyramid, it is representing a high birth rate, a high death rate, and gradually as we move up the ladder, the population is found to be decreasing. If you refer to this population pyramid, it is representing a low death rate. Oh, it is representing a low death rate, yes, because if you see the bars representing the people above 60 years of age, it is quite high. So a low death rate. It is representing a low birth rate as well this time, because the population of young infants, if you see, it is about 2.5% of the females and 2.5% of the males. That is 5% in total. However, the population here, if you see, is of the independents is found to be high, which means more people are staying in the country and they are working for the country. But as compared to this aging population, in this scenario, the amount or the number or the count of this independence is found to be less as compared to this aging population pyramid. So this is how maybe these three population pyramids might be representing three different countries. This can be of America, this can be of Pakistan, and this can be of India, let's say, for example. So this is how these three population pyramids or different population pyramids are used and are compared, representing the population structure of different countries. Now, whenever a population pyramid comes to you in the examination, what are you required to do? First of all, you are required to comment on the birth rate. You are required to comment on the death rate. Let's see, for example, if this is the population pyramid, we are going to say that since the birth rate is found to be about 5%, so the birth rate is found to be low. We are going to comment on the death rate, that since the people above 60 years of age are found to be more, it means that better health facilities are available in the country and is indicating a low death rate. Then we are going to comment on the population growth rate. That is the difference between the birth rate and the death rate, and the migration was the population growth rate. If you remember, we have discussed this thing as well. We are going to see that how much of the population has grown. So since there is a low birth rate and there is a low death rate, so it means that the population growth rate is going to be stable. There is no influx of infants, and not many people are leaving, or not many people are dying. So it means that the population growth rate is going to be there, but it is going to be stable, since there are children who are born, but not many children are born. So a stable growth rate is going to be observed here. However, if you refer to this population pyramid, if we comment on this population pyramid, it has a high birth rate, it has a high death rate. And if we talk about the population growth rate, so the population growth rate is found to be low, because the children, although the children are being born at a high rate, but the people are also dying at a high rate. So here the population growth rate is going to be low. If you refer to this population pyramid, here the birth rate is found to be low, the death rate is found to be low as well, and there are the independent population. So again, this is also having a stable growth rate, and the ideal condition is that the growth rate should be stable. Okay, G. The next thing that we can comment here is on the migration. That what do we see? Either the people are migrating or not. Yes, in this scenario, the people are migrating, because the independent population, less independent population is found. It means that majority of the people have migrated out of the country due to less facilities available. In this scenario, there is very few migration. All of the people, they stay, which has been indicated, or which has been substantiated through the high content of people living, high degree of independent population living herein. If you see here, we can say in this population pyramid, some kind of migration has been observed, since independent population has been found, but the bars such as 50 till 54 or 60 till 64 has found to be decreasing, which indicates a relatively low population of this age group, which means that the people might have migrated. Also, once you are talking about the birth rate and the death rate, then you are required to mention the percentage of the birth rate and the death rate as well. Here is a link for the interpretation of population pyramid as well. You can ask me for the link. I'll be sending you this link so you can refer to it as well for the interpretation, because in the examination, a 6-mark question can come asking you that there are two population pyramids. You are required to compare both of them. So you will be talking about the birth rate, the death rate, the growth, the migration, and whatever it is of both the population pyramids. The next thing that we need to discuss is the demographic transition model. So once we talk about the demographic transition model, that is a model which is used to show the trends of population. This is how a demographic transition model looks like. It has been divided into 5 different stages, and it can be used for a variety of purposes. The first purpose of using a demographic transition model is to find out the history of population of a particular country. That how the population of a country has expanded or declined, or whatever it is, the trends in population of a particular country. If we want to find out those particular trends, then the trends can be found out through this demographic transition model, one thing. Or this can also be used for finding out the trends in population across the world in various countries, that how the birth rate is there in Germany, how's the birth rate is there, for comparison of the birth rate, the death rate, the population growth rate across various countries. This transition model can be used. So here in this picture, a comparison has been shown to you pertaining to various countries, that how the birth rate and the death rate is there. If you see here in stage 2, this is the line representing the birth rate. This black line is representing the death rate, and the difference between the birth rate and the death rate is going to be the growth rate. So if you see here in stage 2, the birth rate is found to be high and the death rate has been found to be decreasing, which means that the population growth rate is going to be high. Because the birth rate is high, less people are dying, which means the population growth rate is going to be high. So the population growth rate has been indicated through the gap, if you see between these two lines, which is quite high, which indicates a high population growth rate. Now, what are the countries wherein such conditions have been observed? So the countries are Egypt, Kenya, India. Pakistan is also a very good example. So if you see, the birth rate is high, the death rate is falling rapidly. And how is the population growth rate? It is very rapid increase. So it has been divided into 5 stages, and the condition of each country is going to be allocated to a particular stage. Let's talk about Germany. So for Germany, it is saying that the birth rate is declining. There is 0 birth rate, and the death rate is still there, because yes, the death rate is going to be there. The people are going to die one day. So the birth rate is also present. In that scenario, there the birth rate is not there. There is 0 birth rate and the death rate is there. So in that scenario, the situation is negative. That is, no increase has been observed. If you see the line, it is the line of birth rate is going below the death rate, which indicates a negative point. So in Germany, there is a 0 population growth rate. If you talk about USA, Japan, France, and the UK, the birth rate is decreasing. The birth rate is decreasing means that more awareness is available amongst the people, more family planning practices are available, better conditions are available therein, and the death rate is also increasing, which the death rate is also decreasing, which means that a decline in death rate indicates better health facilities, better nutrition, etc. So basically, stage 4, if you see, has been allocated to the countries such as USA, Japan, France, and UK, wherein the birth rate is found to be low. The death rate is also found to be low, which means if both are going to be low, then there is going to be a stable growth rate which is going to be observed. So if you see herein, the birth rate is low, the death rate is low, and there is a stable growth rate that has been observed. तो ये तो एक तरीका है जिस तरह इसको यूज किया जाता है. दूसरा तरीका क्या है डेमोग्राफिक ट्रांजिशन मॉडल का? व्हाई इज इट यूज्ड? तो दैट इज यूज्ड फॉर द हिस्ट्री ऑफ वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन एज वेल, और द हिस्ट्री ऑफ पॉपुलेशन ऑफ एन एरिया, जिसके बारे में ये कहा जाता है कि भाई इन द स्टार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड बेसिकली देयर वाज अ हाई बर्थ रेट and there was a high death rate due to lack of medical facilities. With the passage of time, science improved and better medicines were there, so the death rate decreased, but the birth rate was still high. With the passage of time, awareness amongst the people started, and they realized that the resources are scarce, so there should be a low birth rate. So the birth rate started declining, and the death rate was constantly decreasing due to the improvement in science, medicines, and technology. With the passage of time, people became well civilized, and they realized that the birth rate should be very low. So this time the birth rate started to fall constantly, and now a fall in the death rate was found to be constant. And with the passage of time, people thought not to have children, so the birth rate was found to be 0, and the death rate still prevailed, which means a negative growth rate was found. So this is how both the methods can be used for interpretation of the population pyramid. In the examination, usually the population pyramid is going to be used for identifying the trends of population, which means that it is going to ask you to explain the various stages of the population pyramid. So if we talk about the explanation of various stages of the population pyramid, so you are just going to say the demographic transition model is used to identify the trends in population growth rate. There are 5 stages in a population pyramid. The first stage is called as high stationary. The second is early expanding. The third is late expanding. The fourth is low stationary. And the fifth one is declining. For high stationary, you are going to say in stage 1, the birth rate is high and the death rate is high. The growth rate is found to be 0 or low. And similarly, you are going to explain all the stages. तो अगर एग्जाम में ये सवाल आता है तो वो आपसे पूछेगा भाई डेमोग्राफिक ट्रांजिशन मॉडल क्या होता है, किस तरह होता है, इसमें क्या क्या चीजें इंक्लूडेड हैं, क्या क्या चीजें इंक्लूडेड नहीं है, XYZ. These are the things which are going to be assessed in the examination. तो उसके लिए इसकी डेफिनेशन एक तो काम की है. The demographic transition model is used to identify the trends in population, that is the birth rate and the death rate, to suggest that a country's total population growth rate cycle has been, how it has been developed. It also tells us that how the population of a country has increased so far and whatever it is. So these are the things which have been observed in this demographic transition model. तो जो क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में आएगा वो एक्सप्लेनेशन से रिलेटेड आएगा, लेकिन आपको इसका फंक्शन क्योंकि पता होना चाहिए कि यूज कहाँ कहाँ होता है। तो दो फंक्शन हैं जो मैंने इसके एक्सप्लेन किए आप लोगों को। अच्छा जी, इसके अलावा आपके पास एक और चीज है जो एग्जाम में आ जाती है, विच यू गाइस शुड नो, दैट इज बेसिकली the self-help schemes. अच्छा, हो क्या रहा है कि poverty is there and you guys know what poverty is. So due to poverty, the people are forced to live in shanty developments, or they are forced to live in slum areas. Slum areas means the areas where there are no proper houses, no health, no sanitation available. Temporary houses are made, no proper roofs, no walls, nothing is there, and the people they live therein. Shanty developments agar ya slum areas google karenge bhi, you will know you'll see the picture that how they look like. So basically, due to poverty in the country and the people not having the money to buy proper houses for them, is increasing the slum areas in the country. In order to reduce slum areas, what the government has done, that the government has started over with self-help schemes. Now, what are self-help schemes? Self-help schemes are basically that the government is going to provide the land to the people free of cost. And the government is going to ask the people to build houses on that piece of land, because buying a piece of land is turns out to be expensive for the people now, that they weren't able to buy that piece of land. So now the government has bought the piece of land for them. The government is giving the piece of land to all the people living in the slum areas. What they are required to do is that they are only required to live in those areas. They are required to build a house on that area so that a proper house can be built, and there shouldn't be any kind of problems there with the people. So such projects have been initiated in Pakistan as well, because in Pakistan there are a lot of poor people who have migrated from rural areas to urban areas. They are living in those areas, and they are creating trouble. So yes, in order to eradicate with all those slum areas, the government has initiated some projects, such as there was a project named as Khuda Ki Basti. Another project, Orangi pilot project, was there. There is another project named as Mera Ghar, Mera Pakistan scheme, which has been initiated by the government. And the purpose is that the government is either going to provide only the land to the people. At times, the government also provides money for construction as well, and asks the people to construct houses on that piece of land so that they can live easily. So this scheme is called as the self-help scheme. Now, there are certain advantages and certain disadvantages associated with these self-help schemes. If we talk about the advantages, it is a source of reduction in poverty. Obviously, the people, if they are going to have their own houses, they won't be living on rent and other stuff. So yes, it is going to be a reduction in poverty. No more slum areas in the country. Better scenic beauty will now be available in the country. People can live in well-built houses, so the living standard of the people is going to improve, and the overall conditions, the living conditions in the country is going to be improving. So now the people will live longer, because now there won't be any health or sanitation issues due to the slum areas. So the death rate in the country is going to reduce as well. These are some of the advantages associated with the self-help schemes. However, there are certain problems as well, such as maybe the government might give the land to the people, but the people are still poor and there is a lack of finance, and that the people might not be able to have the money for construction. So they will sell the piece of land and they will go away. Maybe the government announces to give the piece of land to the people and the government changes. So that is going to result in the stoppage of work or the transfer of land. Achha, there are some what we call it cunning kind of people as well. What are they going to do is that they are going to build the houses, they are going to sell over their houses to earn money, and they are going to go away. Maybe the government gives the piece of land to the people, but due to inflation, that is the rise in prices, महंगाई, the construction material might become expensive and the people won't be able to build their houses. Supply of amenities such as electricity, gas, and water to the areas of self-help schemes might also be a challenge for the government. So these are some of the issues. Usually a 6-mark question comes for the self-help schemes, wherein you are required to explain the advantages and the problems of the self-help schemes.